I still, berate myself and hate myself every single day for everything that I'm doing. But it's like, yeah, but you had dinner last night, so you might as well do it again.
Oh my God, are you me? Oh, you're here.
I just got here.
Did you hear what I said just now?
I think I heard it's going to be fine in here.
It's going to be hot in here.
Oh.
But don't hot and fine mean the same thing slang-wise?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the hot and fine mental
Where it's
health.
hot and fine.
Yes, but also so not fine. You know what? We're going to push through. I'm Christina.
And I'm Lauren.
Oh my God, you forgot to turn off your fan.
I didn't.
What's that then?
I don't know. Literally, it was quiet in here until just this second. What the fuck is this? Hang on.
It's probably the AC. Da, 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 da. Oh, it's better.
Yeah, I realized, I'm like, oh, I'm an idiot. It's not the fan, it is the actual AC.
That's what I said the second you left. I was like, it's probably the AC, but you didn't hear me.
So I went downstairs, I turned it up. I am willing to let it get up to 82 degrees in here for you. So hopefully it kicks off soon, and in the meantime, I stuck a pillow over it.
I thought you said a pill at first. I was like, what? You took a pill?
Yeah, if everyone takes a pill, you will not even notice the noise.
You have no idea how relevant that is. Anyway, hi.
Hi.
Where are you at today, Lauren?
I am fucking exhausted.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think just, work bullshit, apartment bullshit, and I'm being really lazy about actually looking for an apartment, so instead I just get to stress out that I'm going to be homeless instead of doing something about it.
Do you find yourself to be less bothered about it now that you have kind of financial security around moving?
That was good, last week, but now this week it's kind of like, yeah, but I do have to actually, find the place.
When do you have to get out?
End of July.
Okay, so, oh my God, this is coming out on July 1st.
I will have 1 month.
No pressure. Yeah. You'll find a place. I feel like I've found... Hold on. That was my motorcycle that just drove by.
Your motorcycle?
My motorcycle. I sold it to someone who works around here, and she drives by every day, and I see and hear it.
Aw.
Yeah, it's kind of sad, but also,
yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of fun. But in any case, it's terrible for the podcast. See, I forgot what I was saying.
I don't know. We're talking about me moving and having no motivation.
Yeah, I feel like every place I've ever found has been within 2 weeks of having to move out.
Yeah, usually that's the case too. I don't know. It's like right now, I am stressing out about it, but instead of doing something about that, then I feel like I'm just like, but I can't right now. It feels too hard.
Yeah. What is it with our aversion of doing hard things? Even though, by all appearances, we are two people who do lots of hard things.
Well, strangely enough, I know that some of that is a sign of ADHD, that you get overwhelmed by things like that.
Oh my God, okay.
Maybe.
I wasn't going to bring up this old episode because I don't want it to become a pattern of me just talking about old episodes, but... I was listening to number 142. This episode is an existential crisis, recorded in November of 2023, right before my breakdown. That was the episode where you become my therapist.
Oh, I remember doing that.
It's just so funny because there's so many similarities to now. Fuck, what were you just talking about? I'm already losing my train of thought because I'm looking at my notes and that was a mistake because my notes make no sense.
That's why I like when you pick a topic, because I don't have to come with notes. Just enjoy. I was talking about being overwhelmed.
I don't know. It's gone. Anyway, back to where you're at. Sorry. Got to keep control of this train.
It's helpful because when we record on Fridays, then it always seems to be when I have a dietitian appointment. So I'm like, what did we talk about? Because we always talk about something good. Oh, I feel like I'm in a pretty good place, but it doesn't feel like because I'm working at it. So I think that's kind of scary because then it feels like it could just as easily not. Like I told her, I was like, yeah, basically, you know, for the last couple of weeks, I've been doing the stuff I'm supposed to. But really the only reason I am is because that's where the momentum is right now. Like I have been. So just I might as well keep doing what I have been. I was just like, I feel like I'm floating in a river and, you know, it just happens like the current is going east instead of going north. And so that's the direction that I'm going in. But if I had been, you know, doing badly, then in the mind state I'm in, then I would be like, might as well just keep doing that. So yeah, it just feels kind of bleh.
Wow. Again, you have no idea how relevant all of this is to the topic. Well, in that episode from November, you were literally talking about going through the motions.
Okay.
You actually had a lot of really good advice in that episode. Like you would be a really good therapist. Low key.
I've had enough of it. That's probably why. Eventually, it all seeps into you.
I mean, I feel like you are doing a lot of work right now, but talk more about like not feeling like it.
Yeah, that's just like we talked about, because the last dietitian appointment, I had a really stressful week where it was like so stressful that I said, it wasn't even me saying like, I'm trying to skip meals. It was just like, I came home and I went to sleep and I woke up just to take Pico out and then I went back to bed because I'm like, that's all I got in me.
And so I would argue that that is some sort of acceptance. Like you're picking your battles, I guess. It's not a total spiral, like you said, when you're in the river and you're like doing badly and you're like, might as well just go the opposite way. It's like, I don't know. In IOP this week, we talked about the difference between lapses and relapses.
I know, I love that topic.
I know you do, but that's literally what you're describing. It sounds like a lapse.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those can get discouraging.
And it does feel, then, you know, like the past couple of weeks, and it's like, okay, kind of got back on track to where I was, which is good, but that's where, when I was talking today, I was saying it just, like, that's good, I guess, but it doesn't feel, because I said, hey, I got to turn this around or anything like that. It was just kind of like, well, for the majority of the last couple months, this is what I've been doing, so let's keep doing it. I still, you know, berate myself and hate myself every single day for everything that I'm doing, but it's like, yeah, but you had dinner last night, so you might as well do it again.
Oh my God, are you me?
Partially.
I want that to be like the soundbite at the beginning. Oh man, I love it when we're early in the episode and I'm already like, oh my God, which soundbite am I going to use?
That's something that I thought. I was like, I need to keep a notepad and like jot down because I don't, you know, edit it and hear it all like go. So I never think when you are like, what should we title it and everything? And I'm like, I don't know. What did we talk about?
I know.
A little behind the scenes here for you guys.
Sorry. I did not eat enough today either. And I smoked weed before this and I underestimated how forgetful it would make me. I'm just trying to be honest.
No, I was about ready to say, I'm like, we're probably a little bit of ways out from the worst effects, but I did take half an edible before we started. So, yeah,
Lauren.
It's going to start kicking in soon.
Oh my God, were you going to tell me this?
Yeah, I just was. That's what I said.
I know. I'm trying to pretend to clutch my pearls.
Be my shocked mother.
As if. Anything else to report?
I guess, for the beginning of this week, for some reason, it hit me like really hard, like to the point where on Monday, for the second half of the day, I really did not know that I could stay at work. I just got like really, really scared of Pico dying.
Oh God.
I mean, I know as sometimes we hear in the background of the podcast, he does a lot of little like horking stuff lately.
Yes.
He's not puking. He's just, I don't know, getting something out of his throat. And the last time we were at the vet, I don't know, like 8 or 9 months ago, then I mentioned that, and that's what they said, is they're like, well, seems, you know, like it might be just something that he kind of did, and now he's just kind of like, it's just habit. And that seemed fine, except for some reason it just like was particularly bad over this past weekend. And so suddenly, you know, like my brain's going nuts, and I'm like, I've heard when dogs cough a lot, that it can mean that, you know, they're like in heart failure and stuff like that. God. And yeah, and I'm just sitting there freaking out, and like I can't lose my dog now. And I was just, I was ready to just go home.
That sounds like a very fast spiral.
Exactly. That's why I was like, other than, maybe he was like coughing a little more than usual. There was no reason for me to think that, but it just got into my brain and that's all I could think about.
Does that happen a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot, but it's not unfamiliar.
Was that meatball I hear?
No, I was just shifting. So
how dare you?
I know.
Throw you in the closet.
I like that you blame meatball, though, because, it's one of those things where it sounds like an excuse people would make to cover up a fart. Like, was that meatball?
I literally did that the other day at my parents' house with their dog. But I don't think my mom noticed because she was doing dishes. And then I was like, fuck, I just lied. Now I feel guilty.
I have to go say 10 Hail Marys.
Oh my God. That's scary though. I'm glad he's okay.
I actually, for the next couple days, this sounds so stupid, but I was thinking in my head, I was like, I don't care what vaping is doing to me, but what if it's doing something like secondhand smoke is bad? What if it's doing something to my dog?
Oh my God. Wait, Lauren. Okay, I hate to bum you out, but I went to one of those like doggy cafe places. They had a big outdoor section. I was like vaping on the outskirts of this enclosure and someone came up and they were like, did you know that is really bad for dogs?
Oh, jeez.
And they were kind of rude about it.
Yeah, as people can be.
And
sorry. I know that it's not a healthy thing to do, but still.
Yeah, she was really mean about it. And then at the very end, she like complimented my hair. And I was just like, bitch, don't even start.
Yeah.
Don't even start. You've lost your chance to be my friend. No, I'm just...
So after work, I'm always like on my bed and chilling. And because he is Chihuahua, he likes to burrow under the covers a lot. So all this week, since I thought of that, I try to like hold off. I'm like, I'm not going to vape until he burrows under the covers. And when he comes out, I'll stop. So that's been my...
I'm trying to think of how problematic that is. How much of an addict are you? Judging by that statement.
Only the irony there that I do not give a shit what it's doing to me. I'm just I will only do it when my dog cannot have the effects.
That's kind of a segue into where I'm at this week.
Good.
So last week we talked about my suicidal ideation and my safety plan that my therapist sent my mom. I think that was kind of a wake-up call for me. I mean, it had the effect of making me kind of worried for myself.
Okay.
And I normally don't feel like that. I don't treat myself with respect. I don't really think about my well-being. Like, I don't use that as a factor when I'm making decisions. I feel like vaping, I don't think about what it's going to do to me. I'm thinking about like how I don't want to go to the beach without a vape because then I won't know what to do. Like,
right.
But yeah, I realized that like, I don't know. I was talking about this with someone, how we're not really worried about killing ourselves like as a definitive act. Like, I don't think that's my character. Like, I would never do that. It would have to be like extremely compulsive or like impulsive, whatever. I would. Yeah. That's the reason I don't drink, because when I'm under the influence of alcohol, that is the closest I have gotten to actually doing that.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I should put a trigger warning at the beginning of this, probably.
Oh, I figured we would as soon as we got in this topic.
Yeah. What can I say? It's just... I was going to make a dark joke.
I was just going to say, it's a mental health podcast.
It is a mental health podcast, but I don't know. People still get really weird about suicide. Don't get me started on the whole, like, unalive thing.
Yeah.
Talk about problematic things to say.
That's like, you can't say homeless, you have to say unhoused.
Well, yeah. Anyway.
I don't know, I feel the same way about that. I'm just like, they don't have a home. They are homeless. I don't know.
I'll probably cut all of this. Okay. Which is what I said on the last episode, and you were a lot, and you were the one I was referencing from last year, and you were like, no, don't cut out any of it.
And now we've come so far that I just shrug and say, all right.
Exactly. Let go and let God. Let go and let pod.
Oh, I like that.
I did not make that up.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know who did.
But I like it.
Thank you. Anyway, back to my suicidal ideation. I realized that while I don't think I'm in danger of, like, planning an act like that, I realized that A, I've been feeling this way for way longer than I was willing to acknowledge, and B, I think a lot of what I do to myself is a way of making my death an accident. Like, it's not my fault. It's the eating disorder or it's the drug addiction. Like, it's not something I wanted. I'm fighting. Like, I'm a fighter. Everyone admire me and like pay attention to me. And I don't know. Have you ever given this any thought?
Yes, absolutely. I would say in like the worst, darkest points, I would even take it a step further where I think we've talked about this before. Like, I do not think that I would ever be able to actually go through with any sort of act and unalive myself.
Same.
Same. And, so that's, I understand other people's concern if I ever was expressing some like suicidal ideation, but in my brain, I always think like, I know that this isn't something I actually have to worry about. It's not me. But I do feel like in the like absolute darkest points, when I know also that I really don't want to be living anymore, then that's always my thought that I go to is just like, maybe if I make the eating disorder bad enough, it'll do it for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then other times I've thought like you too, where it's just kind of like, well, if it happens from something like that, it wasn't me trying. I'm trying, see? Yeah.
Well, and I hate when people say, like, the coward's way out. Like, that is so harmful. Too. But I use it on myself in this context. I was like, man, you can't even, like, unalive yourself. You gotta let your eating disorder do it for you. Anyway, I'll try to wrap up my week. It's been really hard. One of the worst weeks I've had in a while. I did some pretty reckless things.
Okay.
That I don't know how much I want to talk about because I'm still like trying to write about it. But yeah, basically I worried a lot of my family and there was another intervention and I took a lot of Benadryl, just like I literally dumped it all out on my desk preparing to throw it away. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to take all of this. That would be so stupid. But I want to get fucked up one more time because I'm the queen of last hurrahs. Like, you're the minimization queen. I'm the queen of last hurrahs. It's like my thing. And I shouldn't be joking about this.
No, but I was like, those are royalty names.
But yeah, it was not a good idea and it really scared me. And my sister came over that night kind of after it had peaked, I guess. So I was like able to hold a conversation and stuff. And but I kept like forgetting words like mid-sentence. And it was just like really embarrassing. But when she left, I was like, I really want to ask you to, like, part of me wants you to throw away my Benadryl for me, but I think that's something that I have to do myself.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. I believe in you. And I did it.
Yay!
Yeah. I threw away the big bottle. I still kept like a few tabs for allergies. Just, complete honesty. My psychiatrist called me out on it too. I told him that I had basically overdosed and like thrown away my bottle, and I was like expecting a pat on the head. And then he was like, so how many did you take last night?
Oh, I was going to say, so how many did you keep?
I was like, God damn it, I took 2. But I think that signifies growth. Like, that's something I've never been able to do before. It just sucks that, like, what it took to get there.
Hey, I am there with you 100%, thinking of the times I had to throw away a whole bunch of laxatives.
Oh my God, yeah. And especially if you have done that before, like the last time I threw away my Benadryl, I just like bought more. So that is a concern. I was on the phone with Janai earlier and I was saying, like, I really want to just buy Benadryl right now. They were like, please don't.
Yeah.
It's not good. But anyway, I have pink hair again.
Yes, I love it.
My sister, so the day after we talked and I threw away my Benadryl, my sister was like, I will spend tomorrow just doing your hair. That's something you've been wanting to do. So we did. And while we were driving to Sally's for the supplies, we were talking about growth. I was saying how it's really embarrassing for me to feel like I am just repeating history and nothing I do is changing my mind about like my destiny. You know, I have such a negative attitude about all this. And she was just like, you are growing in so many more ways than you even know. The funny thing is, I don't remember exactly what she said, but I do remember that I liked it so much. I wrote down on my phone, do a podcast on growth.
Okay.
And then today, just an hour ago, actually, I texted her, What were you saying about growth the other day in the car? It was so good because, I kind of forgot.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm afraid I have no recollection of what I said the other day, but it was probably something along the lines of something woke.
Aw.
But I figured that's a starting point.
Yeah.
First of all, the whole idea is that we are growing in ways that maybe are invisible to everyone or to ourselves.
Especially to us, yeah.
Exactly. And so that conversation with my sister kind of made me think, what are some ways that I've grown that only I might notice? I haven't prepped any further really, but I figured that would be a good question to ask. But yeah, I thought about you a lot researching this topic because you are definitely one of those people that I have watched grow literally parallel to your podcasting journey. We have documented evidence of you growing, and at the same time, it's still so hard for you to see. And we talk about it all the time, how you feel like you're just going through the motions. So it's easy for me to tell you, oh, here are the ways I've seen that you've grown.
Right.
But what's your take?
Well, I have two thoughts.
Please.
One is, and I think maybe since I have more history, this may surprise you, but I've known myself longer than you've known me. Isn't that weird?
Well, I've only known you for 5, 6 years.
Yeah, I was just going to say something like we've only known each other for a few years. And for some reason, I was like, I've known myself longer than you've known me. And I'm like, of course, who cannot say that?
No, you know what you should have said? I've known myself longer than you've known yourself.
That's also true.
But I'm derailing us.
But what I was thinking is that I feel a lot of times why I don't feel like growth so much anymore is because I feel like I keep going in a circle. So I think sometimes when you say it just I immediately want to second guess that and be like, well, yeah, but maybe you just found me at the bottom of a loop and you're watching me climb up to the top of it. But I've already done this loop 5 times, so it doesn't really feel like growth to me.
Oh my God, yeah. Okay, well, when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about repeating history and how I feel exactly the same way, that the older I get, I feel like I just keep looping back around. It's like the relapse thing, but on a way bigger scale. It's like my life is just a series of lapses. But I think it's possible to repeat history, but in a different, better way, better in air quotes.
Yeah, in general, I feel like if people keep repeating the same thing over and over, then you will learn something new from it each time. So when I think logically, I feel like that's probably happening to me, but it's hard for me to see it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of an example.
Me too.
in therapy today, I was coming up with affirmations. And one of them was, I am capable of learning from the past.
I like that.
Yeah, I was trying to come up with affirmations that I actually believed.
I was going to say, I'm guessing that you are like me, that when you first hear affirmations, you're like, so you want me to spout some flowery bullshit? I'd rather say something I believe, yes.
Well, I mean, the issue is that I don't trust myself, and we were talking about that, and she was like, well, no wonder affirmations don't work for you. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust that you're saying the truth. So, you got to find affirmations that you actually believe. And I was like, oh, I like that. I'll try it.
Oh my God, that's the weirdest deja vu moment, because I felt like I have been in therapy before, probably describing something similar, and my therapist has exactly said, well, that's why affirmations don't work for you. Just
Holy
like
shit.
That. So I was like, whoa, that was creepy for a minute.
We are the same person.
Yes.
Cousins, rather.
Yes.
Possibly.
Potentially.
No, I really want to focus on that concept of just looping round and round, and maybe it's not even better every time around. Maybe it's just different, and maybe that's just life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think necessarily, I agree that it's better or worse. I just think that you learn something.
Yeah. Oh, I saw a really interesting thread on Reddit, ADHD tangent, but someone was talking about, I think it was in this millennial subreddit. It was like, why do the years just keep going by so much faster? I feel like my 30s were yesterday and my 60s are just around the corner. And then someone was like, well, when you're a kid or when you're younger, everything is new. And so you record the time much more fastidiously, I guess. You're experiencing all these new things and you're way more present. But when you get like, for instance, graduated from college and get your first job, and then you do a 9 to 5, and your life just falls into these routines, and you kind of tune out the repetitive stuff. And so time just passes by way faster.
Yeah. And I was thinking of that, like why it feels that way looking back when you were saying that, because for some reason, my example that I thought of is like, say you go on a road trip with friends. And the first time you go on a road trip with friends, then every experience about that is new. And it's all, like, this is what's fun. This was maybe what kind of sucks. This is what I didn't expect. This is what was cool. And so say at this point in my life, I've been on 8 road trips with friends. I just pulled a number out of my butt.
Oh, I thought you literally did. I was like, wow, we got to talk about that.
No. But, like say you're at that point. And so then when you think back to road trips in general, then it's not like one singular experience where everything was new and exciting. It's like, oh, this was a fun thing that he did. And then this too. But that one was 5 years ago. And that one was 8 years ago, I think. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. And yeah, it just all starts to mesh together and be one thing.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes it hard to track growth as well when you have a hard time like distinguishing events, or, if you've been traumatized and you struggle with memory for a variety of purposes. Yeah. It's just like, yeah, everything kind of blurs together. And unless I acknowledge and like record my growth or what I perceive to be growth, then I'm probably not going to remember it. And that's another thing my sister was saying. She said, you talk about your failures or perceived failures a lot. Like you write about your weaknesses, you talk about it on the podcast. But when do you ever talk about growth? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like we haven't really had a topic like this before, I don't think.
Maybe why we're struggling with it a bit.
Yeah.
I want to force you to talk about growth for yourself. I'm just trying to think.
No, please ask away.
I don't have a solid question. Basically, that's it. I want you to talk about how you feel growth in yourself. If you've been thinking about it, obviously. What have you seen?
I mean, that's funny because I was about to ask you the same thing. So I was trying to think of an example of something that felt like repeated history, but was actually growth. I mean, the way that I handled the most recent alcohol relapse, it was really hard because I felt like I had wasted all those 4 years. I was right back where I started, because people who knew me sober, they kind of didn't believe me when I said, like, I go from like 0 to 100 really fast.
Yeah. And if you've had that long, then you can know people that are like, you've never known me not sober.
I know, it's so weird. I knew so many people that had never seen me drunk. I was like, no, you don't understand. I will destroy my life in like a matter of months. And I kind of did. And I don't know, I think this time I was faster to get help. I was faster to realize how serious it was. And I don't know, it's so hard to acknowledge.
No, you should, because as you're saying that, I was like, yeah, that is actually something I thought that, like,
really?
During the worst part. Yeah, I was like, I am impressed with how fast you realized I got to do something about this and actually did something about it. Because I don't know that I've really like witnessed it. I think, we knew each other 4 years ago, but not very well and kind of off and on. So I don't think, I had like a front seat to it all. But I was thinking more of myself then and just commiserating, knowing like, when I've seen things get like really bad, like, that's kind of my MO a lot of the times is to let it go on way too long. So I was just like, you really stopped on that quick.
I mean, just like, I was scared.
I gotta do something. I am tanking fast and freaking myself out.
Oh my God, tanking fast and freaking myself out should be the title. I think I'm like that in relationships too. Like, I used to let them go on way longer before accepting that I should just end it. Or that it was a bad fit or whatever. And I do count alcohol as a relationship, as cheesy as it sounds. Like, oh my God, bulimia. I've talked a lot. Before you joined the podcast, I had so many solo episodes where I talked about bulimia as a bad relationship that you just kept returning to.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've, famously said in therapy a few times when they say, like, what is something that your eating disorder has done for you? What is it to you? And I'm like, it's company. It's like having friends.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
no
yeah,
one
it's
ever
a
talks about
relationship.
that. No, you've said that before, but every time you say it, I'm like, oh my God, you're so right.
Yeah.
It is company.
I was just sorry. I was just gonna say, I was like, you know, it's like, here's my friend food, and here's my friend restriction, and I was like, and here's my friend the toilet.
Listen, I have intimate relationships with a lot of public toilets in Seattle.
It gets so they wave to her when they see her.
At one point, I had a note in my phone with bathroom codes all across the city because, like, most of them are locked and you have to have a code. And
oh my God.
I didn't want to have to go up to the employee every single time and ask, so I would write them down.
Right. Holy shit.
You're welcome. But yeah, I was gonna say, so with the relationship metaphor, you feel like you keep returning to them over and over again, repeating history. But sometimes that's what it takes to end the relationship. Like, how many couples do you know that have gotten together and broken up and then gotten together and broken up, and everyone around them was like, this is toxic as fuck, you need to leave? Or someone who tries to quit drugs and just keeps relapsing. It's like they are the only ones that can decide when it's time. And I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, I get that completely.
And unfortunately, you know, you don't always get away.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same way in relationships, unfortunately.
And that is the opposite of growth, which is just like stagnation, I guess.
True.
Or like being stuck.
So that's saying that we keep going through the same cycles, but we keep choosing to try and get out of them. That is not stagnation. Does that mean that is part of our growth?
Yes, you hit the nail on the head. Okay, so another thing I was talking about in therapy today was maintenance. And I think maintenance, when she was describing it, sounded to me like going through the motions.
Oh, good. We're getting back to that topic. So
exactly.
I do want to talk about that. Yes.
So my therapist gave me this sheet of paper that says my self-care menu. And it has 5 categories to fill in. Things you can do daily to support your mental health, things that help when you feel anxious, things that help when you feel depressed, when disconnected, and then at the bottom, things that help pretty reliably no matter what kind of ick I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. But the category I want to focus on is the first one, things I can do / already do daily to support my mental health. This category has been titled maintenance. They're things like, for me, it's shower. I think I've talked about this before. I'm pretty good at, even when I'm at my most depressed, I shower pretty much every day. I feel like I can't start my day unless I've showered. And I would not consider myself showering every day to be growth. Like, it maybe keeps me stable. Like, it is maintenance. And without it, maybe I wouldn't be able to grow in other ways. But like, I don't consider maintenance growth, but also I don't think growth is possible without maintenance. And maintenance is going through the motions. Yeah. That's your segue. I mean, you said you wanted to talk about it. I can keep going if you don't know.
Yeah. Let me put a thought together. I guess, and this might go in with how you're feeling about like the showering thing, because obviously you've done that for many, many years. And so it's a standard now. And that's what I was thinking is maintenance, I feel like, is growth for a while, but that can't be like your only growth. Like, there is a point where to me it feels like it is just kind of like stagnation. Like,
yeah.
And maybe not even like necessarily the showering thing, because I was going to say it stops being stagnation when it stops being hard. And I know sometimes when you're like fucking depressed, it still is hard to shower.
Totally. It was hard this morning.
Yeah, see?
I have an eating disorder metaphor.
Okay.
To go with this. So, oh, hi, Meatball. That really was Meatball. That wasn't you farting, was it?
No. That'd be a funny little fart if it sounded like a meow. Maybe that should be our title. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, God. Anyway, the eating disorder metaphor I'm thinking of is, and this only applies for people who are trying to gain weight, because that's my experience. But this doesn't apply to all eating disorders, obviously. But yeah, so like if you start out underweight and your goal is maybe eventually to gain weight, but you feel like that's just unfathomable to you, you're not going to jump from hating your body to body positivity overnight. The step in between would be, maybe body neutrality or body acceptance. And in that same way, like for someone who is trying to gain weight, I don't know why I said eating disorder example. This could apply to anyone who's trying to gain weight.
True.
But like there's a maintenance phase where like your weight is no longer critical. Maybe it's not as high as, you want eventually, but if all I can do right now is maintain the weight I have, like rather than lose, that's maintenance. But you're right. If I just stayed there and I never ever gained weight and I made it a point to stay at the maintenance phase, that stops being growth.
Yeah, no, it's like it's growth to a point, and then you find a spot where you're comfortable and you're like, I've done enough growing. I'm going to stop now, okay?
Well, and only you can decide when that switch occurs. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have to trust yourself. Like, I've been maintaining my current weight for a long time now. And I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about, like, working out because I want to get stronger, but also that means probably gaining weight, and it's scary. But the fact that I'm thinking about that, I know that that means I need to start trying. I don't know.
Yeah, if someone says the idea to you and it's, like, instantly scary and you think of all the reasons why you don't want to, then you're kind of stagnated. Yeah.
And you probably should do that scary thing. That growth is so scary.
It is.
I mean, you've been out of treatment for over a year at this point.
Not
right?
quite.
No?
Funny enough, I actually thought of it today because it was July 28th that I was done last time. So I'm like 11 months.
No way. Oh, I'm thinking you went in April.
It's over a year ago I went in. Yeah.
Okay, that's right. But still, like, what are some of the scariest ways that you've had to grow in that year?
Continuing to mostly feed my body within, a certain amount of hours has been scary. And that is, we've talked about it, that there's things that luckily, I do feel like there's a little luck. Luckily this time I kept up with all of that long enough to find some things that are worth like being in my current state for. So that's when the hard stuff creeps in, and it's just kind of like, well, it's going back to what you said about like lapse versus relapse. Like that's an easy way to kind of like, when you don't want to put the work in anymore, to like try and talk yourself out of it. That's what I say, where it's just like, well, so what if I just, like have breakfast this morning and then nothing else for the rest of the day because I just don't want to. That's not a relapse. It's one day. I can jump back on tomorrow. So it's like, I get to do that today.
Yeah. And I know you feel like you're going through the motions, but I would argue that some things, like feeding yourself, if you don't go through the motions, then you will die.
Yes.
Like going through the motions is a really great thing in that case. And I was also thinking, since you said you were finding other reasons to keep feeding yourself, like your aerial classes, for instance, I'm guessing that's what you were referring to. It reminded me of just like sports as a whole. And how, like, you can't grow there either unless you go through the motions.
Yeah. Oh, and I was going to share this, I knew at some point, because I had what I feel like is a pretty good example for growth in general related to the aerial stuff, but it, like, literally is talking about, like, strengthening your body, too.
Oh, my God, do tell.
I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but you at least know that I've been kind of, like, frustrated in my last couple of classes. I feel like because each class you're supposed to repeat a few times, so you will get people that are, closer to moving on in any certain class. And I feel like mine, I just kind of got like bad luck of the draw where everybody else in the class is probably about ready to move on to the next level. And I am still very much just starting out at that level. So it's hard when you are watching everyone else do these things and you go and try and you just fail spectacular. And it's like, why can't my body do this? And so I have been feeling frustrated, and where I wanted to relate it to growth is knowing that, a really like tempting thing to do then is just to be like, well, maybe I just need to take a break. Maybe if I'm not enjoying it, I need to stop for a while, see if I want to go back later or something like that. But I thought about that and I was like, but I don't want to stop, but I'm also not having fun in that class. And so that was why I made the decision, instead of continuing with the silks classes, to say, well, let's just go back to a total beginner class and do trapeze and hoop.
And that's growth. The fact that you didn't quit. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you.
And found a solution for it, because as soon as I signed up for that class, I'm like, oh my God, I'm feeling so excited to try it. I was like, see, I got it back. I just had to work through that shit. Yeah.
And that's a great example of like growth being different for everybody and non-linear growth. Like, you know, going from maybe a more advanced or specialized class to a beginner class, you know, on paper that wouldn't look like growth, but knowing you and your situation, it's obviously like such a huge deal.
Yeah, and also what we've been saying about like not being able to see growth in yourself, because I really didn't see it until, like I said, until I had actually signed up for the class and realized I was excited again. But while I was deciding, then it just felt like, I don't know, do I just keep doing this one? Do I do that one? All of it sounded terrible because I was feeling terrible about myself. And then as soon as I came to like the decision that was going to make me feel better about myself, it's like, oh my God, I'm excited. And I'm like, oh, weird how that works. Huh.
Seriously.
Well, yeah.
One thing we could kind of end on is I wrote down growth does not equal work necessarily. And I think your, Ariel's story is another great example, because it's like, rather than work harder in a more difficult class, you decided, I want to keep having fun. And if I don't have to work as much, like, even better,
Yeah. And I probably will have to work as much because it'll be totally new, just at something different.
Well, yeah. But I think when we think of growth, we think in terms of like business growth, for instance, like you have to work really hard. And if you grow without work, then you don't deserve it. Like, I feel like that's a pretty common sentiment just in general, is that like, if someone grows, you just assume that they worked hard for it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Which, in many cases is true. And those people deserve recognition.
But I think also that means that, like, just experience can be growth sometimes. And you didn't have to do anything.
Yeah. My therapist was telling me, like, she goes on a walk every day, and when she notices that she's walking really fast and thinking about work, she's like, no, the point of this walk is for my mental health. I need to slow down and maybe focus on, like, the water patterns, or, like, how many circles are on this bridge. Like, just being present. I don't know. I think if I could start doing that, like, that would be really indicative of growth for me, because it's so hard for me to be present. I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know, but you're kind of making me think, both of us have been through various types of treatment, and I was thinking in that case, it's like, obviously you do growth that is work there because you usually do a fuck ton of therapy, but but I was thinking, like, when I said experience is growth, and I'm like, yeah. Also, the parts where I wasn't necessarily working, where I just, like, put myself there and experienced, I'm like, I think that might have led to some growth, too.
Even though it was going through the motions. We've come full circle. I wanted to get some housekeeping out of the way before we say goodbye. Well, did you have anything else to say, first of all?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, cool. So we have a Substack, and we're always asking y'all to subscribe. picklesandvodka.substack.com. So as you know, we've been asking people to join the chat and answer our questions that we post there. And last week, we spent the whole episode talking about the latest pickle poll, which was, how do your friends help your mental health? And we answered questions from Instagram and from Facebook and from private communities. And it was only after recording that I realized someone had responded to our Substack chat, and I hadn't even checked. After begging people to go to our Substack and answer our question, I didn't fucking check the Substack. And so I wanted to give a shout out to Jess, and I wanted to quickly go over what she said about friendship, because she touched on some things that, like, we didn't mention at all.
Good. But first, I did want to slip in there quick.
That's what she said. That's what he said? That's what they said.
That's what someone said.
Sorry.
I actually like that response now.
That's what someone said.
That's
oh my
what
God.
someone said.
Perfect.
But you were just beating yourself up about this, and I was going to say, we are just learning about having a Substack at all, and now you know to check it last thing, and that would be growth.
Oh my God. She's right. Damn it, she's right. Okay, so...
Anyway.
I messaged Jess to apologize, but I want to read. I am hard on myself. Okay, so the question was, what are your friendship green flags? And Jess said, I am a low-maintenance friend. I can't check in every day, and I don't want to be checked in on daily. This immediately made me think of us, Lauren.
I was just going to say, I feel this so much already.
One of my longest friendships, we go days, weeks without exchanging a word. Even then, it might only be, hi, friend, checking in, and then not texting again for 2 weeks. But if one of us texts dumping out a ton of shit, we listen and check back in after a couple days. I have other friends that we have a running conversation every day. My friends know my ED history, my depression, etc., and I will laugh about how mentally unwell I am. And usually, it's laughed and matched. Every now and then, a friend will try to check in as accountability, and it just repulses me that I shared my struggle with them. This is where it gets into dicey territory. I pay a therapist. I just need my friends to listen to the shit, right? Listen without judgment. Be my safe space to say and feel how I need. And if I ask for advice or input, then please give it.
I think that's good.
It's great. Yeah. And then the green flags were, doesn't get all twisty over me not talking to you for a day or not responding to a text or call or a reel. Oh my God. I have people like this who get weird if I don't respond. Or maybe I'm just projecting because maybe when people don't respond to my reels, I get offended. Oops.
Oopsies.
And another green flag she said was genuinely accepting, not just of me, my sexuality, spiritual belief, etc., but of everyone's.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And then last thing she says is, it also feels weird trying to make friends at this age in life and to recognize how weird it is to say, I made a new friend as an adult. And then, yeah, just communication. Yeah, thank you so much, Jess. Mm-hmm. I could not read that.
No, I felt so much of it, so I'm glad you read that thing that was probably secretly written by me.
But yeah, picklesandvodka.substack.com. We are going to put up a pickle poll, and the question is, how can you tell that you've grown?
Love it.
So next week, we'll be sharing our answers, and I promise I will check every available channel.
The first thing when we get on is I will say, did you check the Substack?
Yes. All right. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. If you like what you heard, don't forget to tell a friend about our podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can find our entire archive and also get access to our chat. We're on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, Facebook.com/Pickles and Vodka Podcast, and YouTube.com/@Pickles and Vodka Podcast. My Instagram is @XtinaJumper, and Lauren is @LaurenAFH. We have a free support group every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard. Go to join.freeconferencecall.com/PicklesAnonymous. We'll see you next week.